Hi, I'm Jijo from Career Launcher LST, and here I'm going to talk about the changes that has happened in the CLAT. The CLAT consortium came with the syllabus. They also gave us a sample paper, and if you look at the paper and look at the syllabus, the CLAT has changed considerably. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about these changes. I don't know whether you are happy about these changes or sad about these changes. The fact of the matter is, you have to live with it. But the way in which I look at those changes is that I like it. I like the look of the paper. I like the kind of questions being asked. I believe the skill set being tested is very good. A lot of comprehension, a lot of reasoning, and the qualities that is actually required in a lawyer is kind of being tested. So in a way, the way in which I look at it is it's a pretty welcome move. The only thing is that you will have to take the test. I'm not taking the test, but you are taking the test. And you want to get into one of these top national law university, so you have to do well in this test. So you have to look at the changes from the perspective of your preparation, right? So this particular video, I'll try and give you that perspective in terms of how do you look at these changes, look at what impact the changes had, and is there any kind of adjustment that I need to do in terms of the studies that I have to do. So we'll do three things in this lesson. First, we look at the structure. Then we look at the impact, and then we'll look at a rough study plan. Let's look at the structure. There are something that we knew for a while now, at least a month's time. That is, it's got 150 questions. They are reduced from 200 to 150, but the time limit is still 2 hours. It's going to be 150 marks, 1 mark for every right answer, minus 0.25 for the wrong ones. Now here, the CLAT consortium has given us the rough structure of the paper in terms of number of questions: English language, current affairs, legal reasoning, logical reasoning, and quantitative techniques. English language 28 to 32 questions, current affairs will be 35 to 39 questions, legal reasoning 35 to 39 questions, logical reasoning 28 to 32 questions, and quantitative technique 13 to 17 questions. What I was interested in it was in the next column, which is the percentage of the question of the paper. For example, English language is 20% of the paper, or quantitative ability is 10% of the paper. And that was kind of interesting because there is one thing that they kept common, that was the percentage of questions. If you look at a 200 question paper, how it was last year or year before that, and look at the number of questions in each of those sections, you will see that English was 40 questions. Now 40 is 20% of 200. And if you look at current affairs, 50 questions, that in fact was 25% of 200. And quantitative techniques is in fact 10% of 200. So what they have not changed is the section, at least the name of the section they have not changed. Obviously I've changed the section. The name is the same. And the composition or the percentage of the question remain the same. Right. Yeah. So, what is the impact? Now, to look at the impact, let's go from one section, each of the section. Yeah. So, let's start with English language. Now, this particular text I've taken from the CLAT consortium website. You can refer to the site for more information. There are certain things that we'll pick from English one. One is that reading comprehension passages of 450 words each. Then it says it's going to be about significant fiction and non-fiction. Okay. What they said is it'll probably take about 5 to 7 minutes per passage. That's what their estimate is. I'm sure that it all depends upon your capability. And the number of question types are the usual ones: main idea, inferences, summarizing, meaning, contextual meaning of the word. So yeah, so it was a usual reading comprehension question. So they also put a sample paper which has got 2 questions. I looked at the first question and kind of did a little bit of what you call, I can't say analysis. Look at that particular question. One, it was taken from here, which is actually mentioned from an article in Scroll. And the number of words, I actually put this on a word counter to check how many words was it. They said that it's going to be around 450 words. This was in fact exactly 450 words, by the way. I don't know if it's coincidence or they got it to 450 words, but at least that RC passage, the sample paper had exactly 450 words. The questions. The first question was asking about the main idea. The second question was kind of a detailed question. The third question wanted you to identify the meaning of a word. The fourth question is about some element of the particular or detail of the passage, and the fifth question was also the detail of the passage. So by and large, if I look at this reading comprehension question, looks to be like a normal reading comprehension question. But there are certain things that we don't know. For instance, I still don't know the number of passages that is going to be asked. There could be a lot of possibilities. It could be 6 passages with 5 questions each, totaling to 30, or 5 passages with 6 questions each, or 4 passages with 8 questions each, or 3 passages with 10 questions each. And I'm sure that as they'll come out with a model paper, then we'll know exactly the structure. My feeling is that you should be able to knock this off in about 30-35 minutes. Yeah, that's, for example, there are 5 passages. I should be able to do each passage in about 6 minutes, or maybe 7 minutes. Yeah. So this is eventually about reading comprehension, and the CLAT is not like, obviously you have done reading comprehension for your CLAT preparation, but we probably would not have given too much of importance. Now here, what this CLAT is asking you to do is reading comprehension, ladies and gentlemen, is important. The current affairs was, I don't know what word to use, like, well, looks good. The current affairs section has, the first is up to 450 words. Those are the passages that will be there. Passages in current affairs. Passages. That's how I went. I'm sure that's how even you went. And the source are news, journalistic sources, non-fiction writing. And they said the question may include legal knowledge, but they have said that you don't require extra legal knowledge, or no additional legal knowledge is required. And you have current affairs and GK on events of significance. So maybe those things what every human being living in this world should know. At least one that is a good citizen, for example, should be aware about what is happening around. So those kind of news. I looked at the sample paper. There was 2 passages. I picked the first one. That was picked from the Economic Times. Donald Trump impeached on 2 House setting up Senate trial. So it's about impeachment. That news is still ongoing, and I'm sure that a lot of things are going to come out in the future. But that's the news. And I put on the word counter. That was 162 words. So it is not exactly 450 words. It's up to 450 words. So you can look at a passage about 162 words. And that was the passage. You can actually look at the sample paper. And there was a couple of things that was missing. So you can look at somewhere this side. So this one, yeah. Somewhere here is mentioned 1 there and 2 there. So those things, numbers are missing. So there were 2 questions, which was which country's name was being replaced with one. That, by the way, if you know the story, that was Ukraine. And the second was referring to the person in number 2. So 2 question was kind of fill in the blanks. Now technically, if you want to answer that question, you don't have to read the complete passage. You could have read the last paragraph and answered that. And there was another question which actually talks about, this was an impeachment of Donald Trump. This question actually wanted you to tell them who was a previous president in the United States was impeached. And the other 2 questions was about the article of Constitution in India and sets out the process of impeachment of the President of India. The article, the news was about impeachment of a president in the US. Now the question is about what about India? And there were 2 questions about it. So 2 questions were on a current news, that particular news. 1 question was on a historical significant event of the news, and couple of questions on the equivalent Indian context. I was thinking they're actually looking depth. I am used to just reading the headlines or maybe 1 or 2 lines, keeping a note of that particular. That's how I used to prepare for current affairs, right? Take a note and keep revising. This is actually wanting me to know not just a width on that issue, but about depth. there are certain things that we don't know yet, which is the number of passages that it's going to give us. So roughly we can assume that about 7 passages of 5 questions each to get to that 35, which I believe that you can actually do in about 15-20 minutes. So no longer it's going to be those passages where you can knock it off in about 8 minutes. So it's going to take a little bit more time than usual, right? Then there was one thing that I was thinking about, and it struck me, that earlier you had 50 news items, right? 50 questions. Last year you had 50 questions of current affairs. Now each of these questions was on a different news. One could ask about Donald Trump, one could be about Chandrayaan, one could be about something else, and there were 50 different news. And a good score, I believe that you're scoring more than 35 and maybe closing 40. Which means what was important for me to know quite a few things. And for me, for example, if I'm getting a score of 35, there were probably 15 news items that I did not know, right? So if you're getting a score of 30, then there are 20 news items that I did not know. Now, we have 7 news items. It's a passage with 3 questions. It's no longer 50 news item or 30 news item, 7 news item. Donald Trump's impeachment as a news item. The Chandrayaan mission as a news item. And there are 5 questions based on that one item. So what if I don't know 2 items or 2 news? My paper is over. So what is important here is to know about major events. I don't think that you can actually ask a 5 question on just an MOU that was signed between India and some other country. Unless, of course, that MOU is of huge significance. What I believe, I'm looking at this paper, it's about significant news. One that has been actually in the news. Maybe Article 370 or the Brexit, maybe. The news item that was there in the news, and I actually now need to know a little bit of depth of the news. And come to think of it, if some of you has a habit of reading newspapers regularly, and this should be fine. And what the CLAT is probably testing is not just you acquiring some random knowledge from everywhere, but actually what the CLAT is testing is the depth of knowledge that you have on important news. So just maybe you'll have to change the way in which you are preparing for GK. Maybe. The way I look at it is that I need to look at some significant event that has happened and then read more about it. And starting today, maybe, actually why am I using the word maybe? Starting today, I think that you should go back and start reading newspapers regularly so you can get in touch with all the context. And some of you have this habit, and I've heard many people saying that newspaper nahi padhna hai, hum log kuch yahan se karenge ya wahan se karenge, newspaper kaun padhega, pause hai yaar. Oh, seems to be, ladies and gentlemen, newspaper is back in the game and major news is back in the game. Right. Look at legal reasoning on how this section has changed. You look at the question, you're almost going, is it legal reasoning? It looks like reading comprehension. Legal reasoning? Where is the principle? I can't find the principle. Yeah. So you look at this legal reasoning. There were passages for about 450 words. They like the amount. 450 seems to be everywhere. And then you have this passage can be on legal, public policy, and even moral, philosophical inquiries. Wow. And says no prior knowledge of law is required. That's great. But when I said this, that there are going to be some general principles. And you think about the general principle that can apply. I know that I can't kill someone. I don't know which article or sorry, which IPC code I'll be whatever applies there. But at least I know the general principle. I cannot kill. I cannot steal. I have to be ethical. General principles. Right. Government should take care of its people. General principle. The government should not be corrupt. General principle. You should do good for others. General principle. Yeah, general principle, right? Yeah. So I think that's what it's meant by general principle, as how I understand it. And then he also says that from the passage you have to identify principle and apply those principles. From the passage you have to identify the principle. Now, there were two passages that was given in the sample paper. One was on this from this article from Hindu newspaper again, article from the newspaper, ladies and gentlemen, unfulfilled promise on personal data protection bill. When I looked at the two passages, there was one thing that I saw in those two passages. One was the fact that this about 350 words, by the way, this was 362 words, this particular one. And what I saw was, there was an opinion of the author. In this case, author had an opinion as to why this bill is not all that good. And author was giving a reasoning to justify the opinion. And you keep seeing that once I put in blue, that the author's opinion is there. Both the passages has an author which is not just giving you facts, but also giving an opinion. Author is making an argument. And if you look at the question, all the question is based on the author's reasoning and author's opinion. So it seems to be that I have to understand the author's opinion, and from there understand the principle or the criteria that I need to apply on the question. Now, some of these questions were more like reading comprehension question, but the third question that you can see here, the third question that you can see is like a case that is given and asks you to identify a course of action based on the principle that you can find in the passage. Now, how that has changed? In the usual legal reasoning, principle was given separately. In this case, I have to read the whole content, look at author's point of view, make sense of author's point of view, and from there identify criteria. The second passage that was given to us here, and if you look at the questions in the second passage, everything is about based on author's reasoning. First question, based on author's reasoning. Second question, based on author's reasoning. Third, based on author's reasoning. And we'll have to probably look at if there are other kind of legal reasoning questions. But the one that I saw here was everything was based on an opinion that the author has made, an argument that the author has made, and you are making sense of an argument made by someone else. So this is, in one sense, extension of reading comprehension, extension of critical reasoning, and I would say extension of what I call decision making. So when I say decision making, you eventually have to make a certain decision. To making the decision, like for example in your legal reasoning, to make a decision you need principle, right? Principles, from the principle, applying the principle onto the fact to make the decision. That is decision making, right? So, or you can look at the principle and say, I need to have certain criteria which I'm going to use, apply those criteria to make the decision, or apply the principle to make the decision. So here I should be able to identify principles or criteria from the passage given to me. So reading comprehension, critical reasoning, and decision making is a skill. Therefore, if you are good at reading comprehension, if you're good at critical reasoning, you'll be good at legal reasoning. There you have it. That's the skills. Obviously, we don't know the number of passages. I'm assuming that if there are 7 passages with 5 questions each to give you 35, and each passage, I don't know how much time you would take. My gut feeling is that you should be able to do in about 4 to 5 minutes. These passages are not very long, but it's going to take time. You need to have certain level of practice and reasoning skills to ensure that you're able to identify those reasons quickly and then apply to this particular situation. logical reasoning. And in logical reasoning, the first thing that you see is, where is AR? Where is my clock? Where is my series? I can't find anything because the only thing that I see is critical reasoning. Passages about 300 words, and there are questions which are all critical reasoning questions. Analyzing arguments, evaluating arguments, assumptions, inferences that you can draw, strengthening, weakening, and those kind of things. Critical reasoning, where you have short passages and questions are asked. That's it. I don't know whether you should be happy about it, sad about it, but this is what it is. And the logical reasoning, ladies and gentlemen, is critical reasoning. And if you're good in critical reasoning, you'll be good in legal reasoning. If you're good in reading comprehension, you'll be good in legal reasoning. If you're good in legal reasoning, you'll be good in both. So what is this paper eventually testing? Your reasoning skills. As a lawyer, you should have those fun basic reasoning skill, and comprehension is what is testing. So when the question initially, when they said that we'll have a comprehension based paper, this is awesome. I think that they're stuck to that, stuck to what they have told us, and have created an amazing paper. So if you have the right kind of skills, and if you develop those right kind of skills, you can do well in all the three sections. This is nothing to do with mugging anymore. You can't just put facts onto your head, but it's all about reasoning. Verbal reasoning is all about that. What we still, so that's what we don't know is the number of passages, but I'm guessing about 10 passages with about 3 questions each. So this you should be able to do in about 30 minutes. I'm guessing that you should be able to. So one passage plus 3 questions, you'll understand the argument, apply in 3 things. So if you are good at it, probably you'll be able to do it in 30-35 minutes. Quantitative techniques and quantitative techniques. What I said is short test sets. This can be data sets, caselets, and things like that. And then you have either calculation based and application based on 10 standard maths. This is what they have said. So this was one data. But by the way, that data looks very crazy, but that is just that there are too many parameters. If you actually look at the question, that is a straightforward application of data interpretation, not very difficult. And there was this caselet. So you have to understand this case, and from there get the data out, relevant data out, made a little bit of mathematics. So I believe that is more about data analysis, calculation, approximation. I don't think that you should mug too much of formulas for this. You should. This is something that you probably would not have done in the previous year's CLAT, but this is something that that you can develop quickly. I kept. So one more thing that we don't know the number of sets. It can be 5 sets with 3 questions each, possibly, and that probably will take about 15-20 minutes. 5 sets. Yeah, I'm saying each set may take about 5 minutes. And if some of you maybe 6 minutes. Now, when I look adding all this time of my assessment, one thing that I realized, I'm just saying that 30 to 35 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. I'm just adding all of this together. That's like 120 to 145 minutes. Oh my God. So, I think we'll have to wait and see how to manage this time. Managing this time in this paper is going to be an important thing. And I think that what you should eventually look at is, can I develop the skill to do English language, English in 30 minutes, current affairs in 15 minutes, legal reasoning in about 30 minutes, logical reasoning about 30 minutes, and quantitative techniques about 15 minutes. Can I develop those skills? Do I have those skills? And what are the skills that we are talking about? That is about your ability to comprehend text. 400 words, 400 words, 400 words, 400 words, 450 words, lot of text. My ability to comprehend is going to be very crucial, ladies and gentlemen. Your reasoning skills, your verbal reasoning skills, your comprehension skill, that's going to be the most crucial thing. So, the study plan must have these 2 skills, reading comprehension skills and critical reasoning skill. So, what is the first step? Read news articles. That is going to help you in current affairs. That is going to help you in reading comprehension. That is going to help you in legal as well, I think. Yeah, everywhere. And back to basics, looking at reading comprehension, critical reasoning. And then another thing that you do is a little bit of maths. So I understand some of you have your exams. Don't worry too much. It's just that there is no huge change around it. It's just that the test has focused on some few skills, right? Now this has given you complete clarity, right, in terms of which skill to focus on. So just keep focusing on those skills. We will come out with a different video on exact study plan. But let me leave you with this particular thought. What this paper has done is to completely revamp and relook at what is the skill set that they want in a lawyer. And if you truly believe that you have the skill to be a lawyer, then you will do well in this test. And what are the skills that you need? Reasoning skills, critical reasoning skills, logical reasoning skills, and comprehension skills. And if you can nail down your preparation, focus your preparation on developing those skills that is genuine, you will do well. Thank you. This is Jijo signing off.